Oh my gosh, are you lost? Yes, I'm lost in space. Oh, guys, welcome back to another episode, episode 8, Lost in Space, season 2. It's an unknown planet. There's mutinies. Oh my gosh, stay tuned because there's so much to talk about.
I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Guys, welcome back to another episode of Lost in Space, episode 8. There's a mutiny on our hands. I'm Alice Ford. This is Alana in space. And I'm joined by our lovely co-host, James.
Hey there, it's your boy James Maple. What's up? What's up?
And Taylor Gates.
Hello, hello. I'm ready to discuss this.
Let's break it down.
Ready.
I really loved this episode so much. What did you guys think?
This was my favorite episode of the season.
Aww.
I really liked this episode. It was just so action-packed and like
Absolutely.
sometimes you're like, oh, this will probably work out. Here I was like, how are they gonna make this work?
Yeah.
And it was so interesting to watch.
Yeah, I agree. This episode was really good. I have to piggyback that. It was just full of, I love like lights, camera, blah, blah. So I was happy to see like a lot of action, a lot of like space exploration in this episode. But we also had a lot of like story development, which I thought was pretty cool too.
Yeah, so the episode opens with Maureen basically being like, how are we going to stage this mutiny? And the first thing I thought of was, oh, they should write a book on how to stage a mutiny. And then I actually looked that up and thought, maybe someone's written a book on how to stage a mutiny, but I couldn't find anything.
Oh.
Penny?
So sad.
Penny, I better see that in the season 3
I was
premiere.
just
That's
thinking
right.
that, right?
Yeah, maybe it will be part of her book.
Yeah.
It has to be.
The next chapter
Mutiny 101.
is. But the first thing they decide is we need a crew. And I wasn't sure how they were going to make this happen, but Maureen did a really good job of kind of playing Dr. Smith and getting into people's heads and convincing them that they should join their cause and help out and take over the engine room.
Yeah.
Hashtag Team Robinson.
They be coming through in the clutch sometimes. I was shocked by that too. The fact that Maureen, you raised a good point. She really did take on a role as Dr. Smith to come in and manipulate the entire commander squad, and she did it quite successfully, I might add.
Yeah, well, I have a feeling nobody likes that captain.
I mean, I don't think so. I know I don't.
We're so hard on her. She's trying her
She's
best.
so bad.
Listen, do you want to be space waste again?
Because you're on the track, Captain Kamal.
Well, yeah, so Maureen is getting in charge of like the whole bridge and she's like gonna run the ship. And she has this crazy plan that the captain is like totally like, you're gonna ruin the Resolute. It's not meant to like go into an atmosphere. I think you're insane. And so her plan is to basically take this giant city and drive it into an actual atmosphere of a planet, siphon the gas, and then fix the water supply. But nothing ever goes to plan.
Of course
Of course not.
Of course not. And they need Smith to go and help them do something. But she has this flashback. Oh, go and talk to
Maureen to warn her.
yeah, the Maureen to warn her. But then earlier they ask her to go and talk to the little girl's mom.
Right.
Yeah.
And she has this flashback of the fact that she killed her dad and
Yeah.
she can't go.
She did that. I remember.
Yeah.
But I love that we see her being guilty because
Yes.
we never see her
Yeah.
actually like feeling bad for anything she's done. So I love that we see that in this episode because it's like, oh, maybe she is an actual person with real feelings.
Maybe.
Yeah,
She
well,
can be redeemed. You know?
yes, she's definitely starting to have a conscience,
Yeah.
I think, which is nice to see, definitely. Yeah, but Maureen then now is helming the ship. They're making their way onto this alien planet again, and they have this crazy idea, but yeah, Smith is supposed to warn them because Hastings, who now, like, he didn't even exist like before, and now all of a sudden he's like
He's everywhere.
this really very like prominent character, up to no good. He's become Dr. Smith, I think, in the bad guy realm.
Yeah, true.
And his plan is to basically use Maureen's safety protocols. I don't understand why he was doing this though. Do you guys? Because when he was like, oh, I'm going to take the safety protocols, I'm going to turn them off, I'm going to kill people, and then make it so you guys can't clean the water supply. I really don't know what his MO was with that.
Yeah, I was a little confused by that myself.
I think because he wanted to leave faster and he didn't want to wait. So he's like, fine, let's just take off right now.
Yeah.
I feel like he was impatient.
So
Impatience,
he obviously he obviously is real scared about these alien ships.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
You know.
Who wouldn't be?
Yeah, that's true.
But not at the expense of a good portion of your team.
Well, yeah. Meanwhile, on the planet, there's still 500 columnists that
There
are
you go.
like, just keep calling Maureen. Hey, Maureen.
Where's our ride?
Do you know
You
why
down
we're down here?
Did you send me that Uber or not?
We've got this metal-eating bacteria down here.
It says you're still 2 hours away.
No tip for you. Yeah, so Hastings is up to no good. I don't really know what he's up to. And then we've got everyone scrambling to make sure that they can get this ammonia on the ship. And obviously stuff goes sideways because Dr. Smith doesn't get to Maureen. And Hastings gets into the security system. Stuff goes haywire. Dawn is trapped outside again.
Yeah.
I love how, like, ready to go Don was. Like, he has a
Yeah.
cart, like, literally attached to his
He
foot.
did, yeah.
And he's like, let's do it. Like, I'm ready to help my crew. And I like how this crew kind of started to forgive him a little bit because, like, they're seeing, like, he really is serious about having their back and not abandoning them again. And so I honestly, like, MVP of the whole second half of the season has been Don for me because he's just, like, he's just really doing great work.
He's coming through in the
like,
clutch.
every
He is,
episode.
Yeah.
He used to have a more difficult time, I think, trying to get, like, his conscience to be, like, always leaning on the good side. And now it's like he's always just, like, in the clinch. He's, like, the savior.
I love it.
He comes through.
Yeah, he does. I like it as well. So after that, we've got Maureen kind of saves the day. She helps Dawn. She gets in there and closes the hatch. And before that, we had the robot helping out when they were on their way into this planet because I thought for sure, like, oh, the ship's going to break apart.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
You know, as that was happening, I don't know if you guys have seen, it's like old school episode of The Twilight Zone. It's called Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. As I'm watching that, I kept thinking about that one infamous scene where there's like a helicopter wing and there's like a monster on the edge of the helicopter wing. And guess who stars in that episode? William Shatner.
Oh.
I was like, look at this little space circle we got going on right here. So I thought that was
Love
pretty
that.
cool, right?
I love William Shatner.
pretty
Actually, for my birthday, my sister gave me a card that talks, and you just open it and it goes, "I'm William Shatner." I don't know why, but it's like the funniest.
fantastic.
It's like every time I'm like in a bad mood, I just open it. I'm William Shatner. I'm happy now. Thank you, William Shatner. Anyways, on other parts of the ship, we've got the robot and Will, and they're trying to save people, but the robot seems to have a mind of his own.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. He's Mr. Independent now.
Yeah. Were you guys, I mean, I was automatically thinking that he senses Scarecrow,
Absolutely.
but I don't know what you guys thought.
I didn't know, like, I was nervous because a couple episodes ago when he started acting different, it was obviously the bad robot. So I was like, oh no, like, is this also an imposter robot? Like, what is going on? So I was like, what is happening? I didn't really, for some reason, never really put it together that he could be going to Scarecrow.
Well, especially, it's good that you brought that up because everyone has been noticing, like, Penny and Maureen, that, like, there's something off with the robot.
Yeah.
But nobody can really put a finger on it. So, like, yeah, is it the real robot? I mean, I think it is, but, you know, what happened to him to make him... I mean, obviously some things changed, but we don't really know what.
I think it's, and then how, you know, when I realized that he was going to Scarecrow, I think it was the fact that Will had taught him, hey, we look out for our friends.
Yeah.
Like, we help them no matter what. And so I think it was, like, obviously it ended up being a good thing, but I think Will maybe was like, shoot, like, maybe I should not have taught him this right before this because...
Robots making friends.
Yeah, because we have, you know, a time limit here and, you know, he's not going to compromise sort of helping out who he cares about anymore.
Yeah. And obviously him and Scarecrow must have been friends before or something like that. On their spaceship, I guess.
Space planet.
Wherever they came from. Wherever they came from, which I don't know where that is. Yeah, so obviously Will is very confused as to why the robot is not going to save Dawn. But when they go to the Scarecrow, it's like so sad because he sets him free and then he like picks him up in his arms and is holding him like a baby and he's dying. And Will says, I've seen that before. And he's going to die.
I'm not crying. You are. Stop.
Maybe we're all crying, okay?
Sadness for machines.
Yeah.
But they do have a soul, I guess.
Yeah.
Or I guess that's what we're all trying to
figure it out. My vote is yes after this episode for sure.
Yeah. And then also, I don't want to spoil the end because we're going to talk about it in a second. But I want to go back to Maureen and Hastings because there's so many interesting things that came out of not only Hastings talking with John and Judy, but then also with what we learn about Maureen and Hastings in this whole episode of what she really did to get Will on the ship. And what were your guys' overall thoughts on that?
I'm glad we finally figured it out because obviously we saw the fact that she traded something to change his test scores in season 1. And I was hoping that would come back because I was like, we have to figure that out somehow. Yeah. And so I'm really excited that they finally brought that back and it paid off so well and it tied in so neatly with everything. And so I'm really glad. And I think it's really interesting that it was an access code too. I didn't know what I thought it would be, but I didn't think it would be that.
Yeah, I didn't either. And when Hastings was first in there with John and Judy, I thought he was saying that she traded because he was like, oh, she trained something. And I was like, did she train the Scarecrow? That's what I was thinking. Yeah. But then I guess maybe that's not what happened. But
my first thought in that whole situation was, when did Aunt Becky get to space? Like, we're over here like submitting, changing test scores to get people on board into schools. I'm like, Aunt Becky, why are you in space all of a sudden?
Will was on the rowing team.
Yeah, he was super. He superimposed his face like rowing through space. I'm like, wait, this story sounds oddly familiar. Oh, that's right.
I actually love just like how similar those two stories are.
That's the first thing I thought. I'm like, wait a second. I know this story. Is she going to jail?
Felicity Huffman and Lori Laughlin, that you?
Are you going to jail? Is there a space jail?
Lori? Is that you?
And Becky in space.
Oh, my.
2020. I'd watch that.
Oh, my gosh. Well, now I've totally lost my train of thought. So Hastings is the evil. And I don't know. He also was trying to trick them into like doing crazy things. And he was like, I'm going to kill Maureen. And by the way, I'm sending them back to Earth after this.
Yeah, he was crazy. He was very evil. But I kind of love a good antagonist, so I was kind of like, okay, like I'm ready to get a villain. Bring it on, like we can.
Yeah, and for once
get through this.
For once, it wasn't Dr. Smith who was like the bad guy, so I was like, okay,
a little bit of a change of pace, which is very nice.
But then at the end, he just like ho hums back in the thing, and he's like, "How's it going, everybody? It's me, Hastings, and I'm great."
And did you notice too at the very end when he walks into the ship deck, he's like, "Oh, you just let anybody in here." I'm like, finally somebody said it. Hastings, you might be the bad guy, but you're the most practical one on this ship. He's like, you just let anybody in your ship, don't you?
No lies detected.
I mean, real talk, though.
Yeah, real talk. I mean,
I do want to say, because I want to go back, because I really enjoyed the little detail at the very, very beginning where, obviously Dr. Smith didn't talk to Sam, but Judy did and found out the name of the guy that saved the security guard. Yes. And so Maureen kind of used that. I really just liked that detail a lot because it's like, I don't know. I thought that was a really cool touch.
Yeah, I like that
like
too.
Being like, well, you might not know everyone's still there, but this guy literally saved your life and you're just going to abandon him like this. Yeah. And so I thought that was like a cool way to get him to be like they didn't even defeat him. They were just like, do the right thing. And they convinced him to finally do that.
Yeah. I was a little confused too when Maureen gets the doors closed from the outside with the little pod. And then it's like all of a sudden everything is just back to normal. And I was like...
Well, because they were trying to flood it with too much ammonia.
Right?
Yeah. The little
so then when it was closed, he was just like, oh well, I'll just let it go back to normal.
That's what I was thinking.
I think he's like, fine, I've lost the battle, but I'm going to win the war.
Right. So he's like, let me just turn off all these things I turned on.
Oop.
Just cut on the AC
Did
real
I
quick.
do that? Yeah, I was like, okay, sure. And then everyone was just like, all right, cool.
That was hot in there, huh? I'm like, yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was a strange ending to that, if you ask me.
But it set up some showdowns, I would have to say.
Oh my gosh.
Faux shout.
Yes, some showdowns that I'm interested to see what happens in the next 2 episodes. Yes. But before we get into our special segment, we do have to mention that after Robot saves Scarecrow, Will is like, hey, you have to, like, he looks like he's going to leave. And Will's like, hey, you have to help us get home. And the robot goes, no, Will Robinson. And I was like, new word, and oh, damn.
I really thought, like, in my head, I was like, oh, is he going to tell him no? Because we haven't really heard him say that.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I don't think he's actually going to say it. And he did, and I was
He
like,
said it.
I was like, whoa.
It's about to go down.
I was shocked.
Yeah. I was taken aback by that too. This is the first time we've ever heard him say that.
Yeah.
And it's what I was thinking that he was gonna say. So
No, Will Robinson. Whoa.
Well, yeah, so now I'm like, well, what's his ulterior motive? Because everyone has one, and even all the robots have had ulterior motives.
Yeah.
So,
I think his motive is pure. I think he just wants to help Scarecrow.
yeah.
I don't know.
Go home.
I don't know.
True. Like, what happens next?
The robot's
Yeah.
been making up his own. He's been doing his own thing recently.
Yeah.
With his new friends. So I don't know. I feel like we knew you, dude, but you're changing on us. So I don't know what to expect.
I wonder if he's going to
Better.
rescue Debbie as well.
Where is that chicken?
Where is that chick?
Debbie!
We missed you.
We need you.
Hashtag free Debbie.
Hashtag free Debbie.
Yes, that's our new hashtag.
Debbie
All right,
cakes.
well, let's get into our special segment.
Real MVP.
That's right. So who are you guys' MVPs in Space Waste for this episode?
I'm giving my MVP to Don because he propped that door up with his little cart and he let so many other people go through and I just like loved him. And I love the line where Ava, I think his, boss was like, oh, like, most people made it out. And he's like, yeah, well, if you want 70% of the job done, call it Don West.
That was funny.
I love that line. And it showed a lot of, growth and self-sacrifice on his part. And I just love the fact that he used the little cart that his ankle monitor was hooked up to prop it open. I was like, thank God you were on house arrest. Like, so I really liked that.
For me this week, MVP captain of the ship is indeed the ship. I think the resolute came through in the clutch.
Yeah.
Because the captain was like, oh, the ship is made for this. And it was like, I got this. Vroom, 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 vroom. So I was cool. I thought it was pretty cool to see the ship take the lead. And Space Waste this week, for me, that captain again. Captain, come on. I keep getting on her. She just letting anybody, I guess because I have a military background, like, it don't go down like that. So that's who I would choose again this week.
My Space Waste, I'm saying Maureen, because you gave Hastings that code. You allowed this to happen. I guess there's no way that she could have foreseen it, but I mean, you were kind of responsible for this if we really think about it.
Mm-hmm.
That is true. I was going to pick Maureen for my MVP, but now I have second thoughts.
She was kind of the best and the worst in this episode.
That's true. I guess she can be my both. How about that?
There you go.
Space Waste and MVP. Double.
I'm
All
here
right.
for it.
Well, before we get out of here, I'm going to go to Taylor with the news.
Yes.
AfterBuzz TV News.
So, very exciting news. Taylor Russell, who plays Judy on this show, was actually in another movie that just recently came out called Waves. And I'll read the summary really fast for that movie. It says, the epic emotional journey of a suburban African-American family as they navigate love, forgiveness, and coming together in the wake of a tragic loss. And she is getting so much awards buzz for her performance in this. I think she's won a couple of the smaller like indie circuit awards, and her name has come up a lot when talking about Oscar nominations, which is really, really cool. So definitely check that movie out. And Taylor Russell, we are rooting for you, girl. Like, love how you can do it all.
Mm-hmm.
That's very cool.
That's awesome. I'll have to check that out. I hope you guys do too. And let's keep the conversation going about Lost in Space. Guys, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Terrell James Maple. Holla at your boy.
And you guys can find me on Twitter at alphabet_Ann and on Instagram at Taylor_Gates_.
And you guys can find me on Twitter at Alice L. Ford or right here on YouTube at Alice Ford Adventures. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye!
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV.
Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.